Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jeff Wade. I'm the Mining Community Manager at Esri here in Redlands, California. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Mining User Group webinar regarding improving workflows with mobile apps. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted in the next few days. As a participant, you'll receive a follow-up email with a link to that recording. I'm confident that many of you will have attended Esri webinars in the past, and so we'll follow our normal practice today in encouraging you to enter questions in the GoToWebinar questions dialog box that you'll see on your screen. Please enter those during the presentation and we'll collate them and answer as many questions as we can as time permits at the end of the session. Now it's my pleasure to introduce you to the Mining User Group Chairman, Chris Franks of Freeport-McMoRan, who's in his office in Phoenix today. Chris.
Good morning. Thank you, Jeff. And good morning and welcome to everybody on the webinar. Wanted to provide just a brief introduction into the Mining User Group for those that are not familiar with it. We are a volunteer organization comprised of industry professionals across not only the United States but outside of the United States. And our purpose is to gather business needs from the mining community and work with ESRI to drive the technology to match those business needs for our membership. We've been in existence for about 6 years, maybe 7 going on there. We have a LinkedIn site for all of our communications, and the website address will be posted at the end of this presentation. We're hoping that through a series of webinars that we're going to be hosting here that we will be driving business value to our users, because the idea behind all of this is that we are enabling our users to better utilize the various technologies that are out there and to use forums such as this to expose them to those technologies, culminating this year in the 2017 International User Conference in San Diego. Once we're completed with these, they're going to be added to the online library of resources that will be available to everyone. And we have 2 more that are coming. We're shooting for the first quarter of 2017 and the second quarter of 2017 for those upcoming webinars. With that, I'd like to hand it off to Jeff Shaner, Senior Product Manager within the Applications Group of ESRI, who will be doing the majority of the presentation on the technology part of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome, everyone. What I'd like to do today is give you an overview of the ArcGIS applications that we're building, starting with our strategy around extending the reach of ArcGIS to everyone inside of your organization. Within our development group at Esri, we're building applications that are designed for use in the field, designed for use in the office, and for engagement with the community at large. And they're founded on the ArcGIS platform and simplify the way that you can leverage the platform to accomplish the workflows that you need to do. Today in our discussions, both Chris and I are going to focus on ArcGIS apps for the field. With ArcGIS apps for the field, you can go through the process of planning the field work that you do while you're in the office, improving the way that you coordinate between the field and the office and together with one another in the field, using applications on your mobile device, being able to efficiently and quickly navigate to the location of the work that you need to perform out in the field, use ArcGIS applications to capture data, and we'll talk about that in a lot of detail today, that help you improve the accuracy and the currency of the spatial data that you build and maintain inside of the ArcGIS platform. And then through the entire process, use applications that are suited to kind of monitor in real time and gain insight on the field operations process, whether that be in the office on a big screen monitor, or as you're moving about on an iPad, or maybe an Android tablet or phone as well. So with that, we have a suite of applications that we're building within Esri through each of these processes that you undergo inside of field operations. And I'm going to spend the rest of my speaking time talking about each of the products as they fit into this life cycle of field operations. Starting with a new product that we released this summer called Workforce for ArcGIS. And Workforce for ArcGIS has both a component that runs inside of the office, as well as a component that runs inside of your mobile device. And we first released Workforce for ArcGIS back in July of this year, and we released a website that is integrated into ArcGIS Online. It's called workforce.arcgis.com, and it lets you as a project owner create what we call a workforce project to optimize the field work that gets accomplished. It includes the ability to leverage the map content that you have already in your platform, and then create work assignments and assign them to a mobile workforce so that you can dispatch work efficiently and monitor that work as it's being performed in the field. On your mobile device, you have the ability to kind of view and look at the list of work that's been assigned to you from the office. Kind of like you look at your email inbox every day, you can look at the work that's been assigned and sort it and organize it based upon the most meaningful way that you work in the field. That could be by its priority or its distance to your location. On your mobile device, you can receive notifications when someone gives you a new work assignment. You can set your working status so that if you want to broadcast your current location and you want to let others know where you're at, and also that you're actively working, you can set that working status, or when you take a break or when you go offline for the day, you have control as a mobile worker to kind of indicate to others when you're working and when you're not. And we'll kind of key off of that and log locations as well inside of the application, so you can get a breadcrumb trail of where each mobile worker's been. Workforce uses the concept of a work assignment. So the work assignment includes a status for it. It includes a description and a location, and it integrates with the other applications that are part of the field operations suite. But inside of Workforce, you can get your work assignments, you can add or edit notes, and you can view reference information that's associated with the work assignment that needs to be accomplished. That could be PDF that guides you through how to accomplish the work that you need to do, or pictures around the work assignment that help you with reference to the work that needs to be done. We've released it so far on a mobile context on the iOS App Store, and we're working right now through beta with our customers on Android and Windows Store. For overall release status of where we are today and where we're headed, the 1.0 release, as I mentioned, was in July. We followed that up in October with a localization release, so it's supported in all of the languages that you find ArcGIS Online supported in. As I mentioned, the iOS app has been released, and Android and Windows 10 are currently in beta. Early this next year, we'll have released both the Android and Windows app, and we're adding support for Portal for ArcGIS with the ArcGIS Enterprise 10.5 release that's coming very soon. So Workforce really guides, or Workforce really helps you plan and coordinate the work activities. The next application that I wanted to talk about is another new one that we've released fairly recently called Navigator for ArcGIS, and that really helps you get to the location of the work that you need to do. It includes Street Map Premium data, and Navigator for ArcGIS works fully offline. Now, one way to think about it is it's very similar to the consumer navigation applications that you may use today for personal use, but designed for the enterprise and designed to work in the conditions that you work in, where there's no internet connectivity. But there's much more with it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. First, it's fully integrated with the other ArcGIS apps like Collector and Workforce for ArcGIS as another example. It is a premium application. It's licensed per name user. But what's really interesting about Navigator is that you can customize the map as well. As far as the map content that Esri provides, if you're using ArcGIS Online, once you sign in to the Navigator application, you can download maps to the device in order to use them offline. And we provide a set of packaged maps at both the country level, also the state level and the region level, or province level, depending on where you live. So you can just download the map and then use it in a fully disconnected way. If you're using Portal for ArcGIS, you can download the maps and store them on your on-premise portal, register them, and just like you're using ArcGIS Online, then provide those maps out to your mobile workers that can download them to their device. And we started to do that with ArcGIS 10.4. So you need Portal for ArcGIS 10.4 and higher to do that. With the Street Map Premium data for coverage, we have all of North America and Europe, as well as the Middle East and Africa. We're releasing support for Asia Pacific this quarter, and Latin America is planned for early next year. So we'll have support across most countries in the world with the commercial data offering that Esri provides with its Street Map content. But what's really exciting, as far as I'm concerned, is what you can do with the map itself. So because Navigator is just leveraging the platform, and you can do things like modify the cartography, add or remove locators that help you search for different asset layers that you may layer on top of the road network that is either the commercial road network that Esri provides or your own road network, because you could replace that with your own entire road network. You could even purchase the Street Map Premium data that comes to you as an ArcGIS Pro project in a file geodatabase and blend maybe private roads that you maintain into the commercial data set, modify the network properties if you'd like as well, clip to an area of interest, and package it up for offline use within your organization. So what's really exciting about Navigator is not that we provide this commercial street map data, but you have control over that. It's literally you building a data set using Network Analyst and ArcGIS Pro, packaging it and making it available to others. How you actually do that, I kind of mentioned this briefly already. You can use ArcGIS Pro. We'll provide you with the project and all the cartography that's present inside of the street map data today. And along with that, a file geodatabase that includes all of that data for the region that you're interested in, as well as custom feature classes that you can pour your data into, build that network, modify its travel modes potentially or properties of that network, customize it if you'd like, package it up, share it inside of your organization and download it to the device. Or if it's fairly large in size, you may want to sideload it directly to a mobile device, or copy it, I guess is another way to say that. At a minimum, this requires the Navigator 2.0 release. as well as Pro version 1.2, which are both shipping products. Where we're headed next is that Navigator for ArcGIS is going to provide a way that you could pre-plan a route. You could do that using ArcGIS Pro, using ArcGIS Server and Portal, or using ArcGIS Online, so that if you want, you could pre-create a route, share that as a new route layer within the platform to the Navigator application, and then follow along that route as you're out in the field. And that's really ideal if you have a certain class of vehicle and you want that vehicle who's traveling a predefined route to always follow along that planned route. So that's a functionality that's coming early next year. Now, once you get to the location of the work that you need to accomplish, Esri provides a couple of applications for capturing data. The first one that I wanted to mention is Collector for ArcGIS. Collector for ArcGIS is a map-centric field data collection application that has been around for some time. It supports fully offline use and is really centered around the ArcGIS platform. It leverages the web maps, the feature layers and feature services that you author and publish inside of an ArcGIS organization and brings them to life. It lets you capture point layers, line, area layers, the way that you've defined them as what we call feature templates within the feature service. Supports relationship data, lets you capture photos, and something we'll talk about in a little bit is that we've added support for integrating with external GNSS receivers now. So if you want to use a smartphone and pair it to a highly accurate GPS receiver, you can do that, and also attach accuracy to the data that is provided. Collector supported on the iOS platform, the Android platform, and on the Windows 10 platform today. Something that I wanted to mention about Collector for ArcGIS that isn't commonly known is that embedded inside of the ArcGIS platform are a number of feature layer templates. A lot of people use the desktop software to author a data model that's stored inside of a geodatabase and then either publish that to their own ArcGIS server instance or up to the cloud into ArcGIS Online or to their portal as hosted managed content. But embedded inside of the ArcGIS Online system and the portal system is it a way to quickly create what we call a hosted feature layer. And we do that from a series of templates. In fact, there's over 60 different templates available inside of ArcGIS Online in the portal today, and that's just going to grow as we move forward. And so these are ready-to-use templates that you can quickly create without having to have knowledge in our desktop software and provide out to the field. Back to the location capabilities. With the latest update to Collector, as I mentioned already, we've done a lot of work to improve the way that you work with GPS receivers. Previously, you could only use the location service API that's in part of your smartphone device, and it abstracts the true location that you get from a GPS receiver that even if you had Bluetooth to the device and wanted to use exclusively, you couldn't. So what we've done is we've added a way for you to connect directly to a Bluetooth receiver if it's an external receiver, or if it's an embedded high accuracy receiver, connect directly to the GPS data, the NEMA messages that come from that receiver, and we'll provide you with a visual way to kind of see the information coming from the GPS. That means like the number of satellites, the estimated horizontal accuracy and vertical accuracy, or fixed type and whatnot. More so, we've also added support inside of Collector for defining what we call datum transformation. So if you're using a real-time correction source like RTK or PPP-based, you can define the transformation that's from the GPS's spatial reference to the map's spatial reference and ensure that you have the proper accuracy as coordinates are being stored. We'll provide alerts so that if you lose a fix or you go below your accuracy threshold, you'll be notified of that using the standard notification system on the smartphone platform. It'll buzz at you or make noises. And the GPS accuracy, both the horizontal and the vertical and all of the measurements of it, you can store directly on your data. So it was a big release for us as we rolled out Collector in the second half of this year. It also added app integrations and a scheme for you to remotely control it if you'd like from your own application. Little things we also did included the ability to zoom in as much as you'd like beyond the scale threshold of your base map so that you can see the accuracy to which your GPS receiver is providing. And we've done things to improve the storage of photos, like storing into the EXIF of the photo location and direction information. What's coming next? We have a quality release that'll happen before the end of the year that adds deeper app integration with the Workforce product and Navigator, now that Navigator is also released on the Android platform. You know, we have a couple of releases under consideration for next year. One that would be early in the year where we're looking at adding support for a GPS averaging technique as a way of collecting data with high accuracy receivers, being able to do things like rename photos and base maps and various other quality and performance improvements. Those are all under consideration for 10.4.2. And then we're working on bringing the Collector application to the latest version of our underlying ArcGIS runtimes, the technology under which Collector is built from. So a lot of the new features you see inside of ArcGIS Online and web maps will be coming when we do that port. Things like labeling on the map or some of the new advanced rendering capabilities will be available inside of Collector. We'll also be bringing pre-planned workflows, and we're starting now to work on smarter form integration throughout the platform that will be realized inside of Collector. All of that work is planned for 2017. A lot of things happening there. And we'll go through a series of beta releases and a beta program which we'd love to have everyone join, and that'll start early in 2017. So please look for that. The other field data collection application that we've been building is one called Survey 123. Survey 123 takes quite a different approach. It's a form-centric field data collection app that's brought to life by designing these very powerful surveys with a form-centric approach to them. You design these surveys either using your favorite spreadsheet software like Microsoft Excel, or there's also a web experience with a Survey 123 back office website that lets you author form-based web applications as well. And it includes in that a way to analyze the results that are coming from the field. So if you're looking at some of the more advanced inspection forms or assessment forms that you might perform on paper today within your organization, like the ones you see here, that are very difficult to translate into a traditional geodatabase information model, a Survey 123 is a great solution for that because it leverages an open standard called XLS forms so that you could design using that form specification directly inside of Microsoft Excel and bring that form to life. It has a preview mode that lets you kind of see the experience of which you would have out in the field, and then you can publish that to your ArcGIS organization and create new surveys as you go. You can also kind of customize the look and feel of the Survey 123 application, like the color and the branding a little bit on it as well. It works across platform. It's supported on the mobile operating systems listed here, as well as also on desktop systems and in the web. So the concept is really that you can author either in the browser or using this a technique with XLS forms through a spreadsheet software and a desktop connect application, publish them to your organization, view them and share them through the Survey 123 website, and use them out in the field in the mobile application. What Survey 123 is working on next, well, you might have noticed if you've used Survey 123, first of all, that it releases quite often. In fact, the development team tries to release every 6 weeks. And the next 6-week iterations are going to focus on introducing public surveys, so more to that notion of being able to engage with the community, providing the web experience packaged and deployable within ArcGIS Enterprise, so it works completely within your portal environment, supporting editing workflows so you can edit an existing survey. Today, every survey you create is a new survey within the application. We want to be able to update existing ones. That's coming. And improving the web forms experience. If you're building a web-based survey form, bringing that up to speed with what the capabilities are for the desktop and XLS forms experience. So a lot of work ahead for Survey 123 this next calendar year. Now, when it comes to that monitoring of data that's being captured in the field and your field workforce, there's a couple of applications I briefly wanted to talk about before I conclude my time. The first one is the operations dashboard for ArcGIS app. And it was really designed first and foremost for that purpose, for monitoring data that's changing in real time. We have a number of our customers that are using it for that purpose, but they're also using it to kind of visualize KPIs or key performance indicators and summary or roll-up data within their organization to look at their service level agreements. There is a cross-platform extensibility framework with the operations dashboard. So what's interesting about it is it's not just a map, but it's a set of widgets that provide information along with the data sources that are powering that map. Things like lists and charts and graphs and whatnot. So you can build this true situational awareness view of what's happening inside of your organization, or roll up what's happened in the last month or in the last 6 months or a year. And it's extensible. It's extensible using the JavaScript API. What we're doing next is we're providing a complete solution inside of your web browser. Today, it requires that you download a Windows application onto your desktop to author an operation view. In the next generation of the Operations Dashboard browser app, you'll be able to do all of that inside of your web browser. And you'll be able to lay out an operation view with widgets that can dock and leverage the full breadth of your web browser, so you can build a view that could work either what we call in an unattended way, sitting up on a wall where you never touch it, or interactively where you're interacting with the map or the individual widgets, discovering information about it. Along with all of these updates come the improvements that have happened inside of the JavaScript API with all of the smart rendering capabilities and labeling and whatnot. A lot of new features there. We've also overhauled the charting experience, so there's a whole suite of new charting capabilities coming, as well as the way that you work with data sources and filter content, especially time-based content inside of the dashboard itself. So better maps, support for vector tiles, stream layers if you're using the geo event server extension, and a lot more. The Operations Dashboard app is in beta today, and you can join that beta program from the early adopter site, and we're planning to release in Q2 of next year. The last application that I wanted to talk about in this context is Explorer for ArcGIS. Explorer for ArcGIS is a great application to give to those in your organization that move about on their iPads every day discovering information on it. They might today read their email or look at spatial data through public applications at a consumer level, but it's a great application to provide context of your asset data on a map. And it's been really targeted up until now as an application for collaboration, for sharing, for briefing, because it supports a time player, it supports sketching on top of the map, it supports presentations that you can author in the platform, and you can use it in a connected way. But where we're heading next with the Explorer application is supporting that project manager or that field manager as well that needs to tear those maps off and go out to the field in a disconnected way. We're also going to improve the connected experience with vector-based maps, with the new rendering capabilities and all of that wonderful stuff you see in the platform, but we're also going to support packaging maps for offline use. And as part of that, building a new extension into ArcGIS Pro to kind of customize that packaged map experience. Finally, within Explorer, for those that go out to the field with a map and perhaps they want to do design or they want to mark up where there's anomalies in the GIS data, we're adding some advanced markup capabilities. In the screenshots, you kind of see where on the very left screenshot, I kind of free-handed what should be a circle, and Explorer will recognize that and say, is this actually a circle? And you can turn it into one, and you can fill it, you can pick it up, you can move it around. You can do that with various shapes. We'll do that with lines, so you can turn them into arrows, and you'll be able to store that inside of a new graphics layer that we're building into the platform and share it throughout your organization so you can update the GIS. So no longer does that information sit as scribbles on top of a paper map in the back of a truck. It actually comes to life inside of the GIS. We're going to have a beta early in 2017, and we plan to release that in Q2 of next year. And with that, that's really an overview of our applications that are designed for use in the field as part of the ArcGIS platform. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to hand it over to Chris and Deborah, and they're going to talk about how Freeport-McMoRan is taking advantage of these applications inside of their organization. Chris?
Thank you, Jeff. So before we get into some of the more detailed points on our presentation, I'd like to just kind of give a brief overview of some of the challenges about what encompassing and what we've run into in our business as we've looked into those Survey 1, 2, 3 and workforce integration. So as you can see from the map, we have a wide variety of property interests across not only North America but other continents. And not only are we a consolidation of many, many different companies over time, but more importantly, we're a consolidation of corporate cultures over time. And as we have been looking at our operations, we have figured out pretty quickly that one of our biggest challenges is gathering the business requirements up front. And the reason for that is there's many, many different methodologies and many, many different technologies were being utilized across our sites for accomplishing the same work. And so I can't emphasize enough the importance of spending the time with the business upfront and gathering those business requirements. So as we have gathered our business requirements, we have clearly seen a very clear lack of standardization across our portfolio. And we started with the environmental inspection group within Freeport. And the reason that we did that is that's where we lived and that's where we were housed. And so as we were looking at our mines, specifically in North America, we were seeing a lot of environmental compliance, accountability inspections that sometimes were weekly, sometimes were monthly, sometimes were quarterly, and sometimes even on an annual inspection cycle. And some of those would include aquifer protection program, SPCC containers, satellite accumulation areas, hazardous waste, universal waste, etc. We're going to speak specifically today about one of our operations. It's a Colorado molybdenum mine. And we had several unique challenges that were associated with this particular site. One of them was just a short work window seasonally, just because of the elevation and the fact that it spanned the Continental Divide. We had, 10 to 12,000 foot elevations. And so what that did was it results in a very short work window. So their outdoor work season is about 4.5 to 5 months long, from about May to September, and that's when the snow starts to fly typically. One of our other challenges, and this was something that caught us a little bit off guard, was that they had a very developed underground communications architecture, but almost nothing above ground. And so as a result of that, we really had to think about the workflow and especially disconnected editing and operating within disconnected editing mode for those inspections that were outside and above ground, and then they would be connected when they were underground. So a little different thinking there. And we're dealing with a lot of different people having to do multiple inspections across various business units. Which again, I think everybody in the industry probably face those same types of challenges. So as we were looking for what we were doing and how we were going to go about our inspection application, we initially had started with our collector/dashboard technology. And when ESRI released the Survey 123 and Workforce technology this past summer, as Jeff indicated, it really offered us a lot more business intelligence. And as a result of that, that's when we jumped into the Survey 123 Workforce arena and spent some significant time on the deployment of those applications. With that, I'm going to turn this over for a few minutes to Deborah Vianne Brown. She's a senior GIS analyst here, and she'll talk a little bit about maybe some more specifics on the Workforce 123 integration.
Thanks, Chris. As you mentioned, the challenge really for targeting standardization of these inspections across our sites was to, first of all, create a more robust handheld inspection application. Survey 123 allows us to leverage conditional questions and multiple answers, as Jeff had mentioned previously. But the second challenge for accommodating our business requirements was really to address the post-inspection QA/QC, follow-up, managing follow-up issues, also really understanding what the inspection cycles were and the next inspection cycle. So business requirements, the inspection administrators are really needed to query and the inspections, understand what the statuses were. They needed to assign inspections to the field team, making sure that those teams were scheduled in a more efficient, timely way. We really needed to understand any follow-up issues in a very specific way. Sometimes if an inspection came back with an issue, it could require repair time and special field teams. So that post-inspection QA/QC really brought us into the realm of using workforce. Also, we needed to accommodate audit and archiving requirements. Here we've got just a quick view of the workflow. So a field technician accomplishes an inspection. We are using the GeoEvent extension to apply a tighter integration between Survey 123 and Workforce to accommodate the business requirements. And what the GeoEvent extension is doing in this context, it's number one, creating the next inspection based on whatever parameters we have given for each type of inspection. But we've given a little smarts saying that maybe there is an issue for a given inspection, and that will trigger a workforce record that can be assigned appropriately. Additionally, going back to our requirements for archiving and accommodating audits, the GeoEvent extension will actually write a record to our ArcGIS SDE where that can be done. And then following the workflow, the dispatcher, which is normally the inspection administrator, assigns the next inspections to the field team. The field team are able to see those inspections on their handheld device, and they're deployed accordingly. And then the cycle continues. This is just a quick screenshot of what the Survey 123 app looks like. You can see that the questions are quite long. They're actually user-friendly questions that speak to the field team. They're standardized questions across different types of inspections. You can see that we've got a window into a spatial point. They can indicate where exactly they are picking up the inspections. And here, of course, we're leveraging the conditional questions and the multiple answers that Survey 123 provides. And here's a couple of more screenshots. When you zoom in to create a point on a map where you are taking the inspection, that's what the view on the right looks like. And additionally, Survey 123 has some smarts built into it. So if you look at the screenshot on the left, if the user tries to resend a survey or to hop out of a survey before it's completed, it will give the user an alert and an opportunity to go back to the correct workflow.
So Deborah, I have a couple of questions for you as we were talking about the various technologies. Speaking about Survey 123 and Workforce specifically, could those technologies be utilized independent of each other, or is it better to marry them in the context of what we were talking about? I believe certainly they could be used independently of each other. For our particular application, we found that the integration between the two really supplied a solution for some of our more complex business requirements. We have talked about using Workforce on its own for some applications. We may look into that in the future. Okay. And how about just from a disconnected editing mode? Can they be used in disconnected editing mode, or do you have to be in some sort of a Wi-Fi area?
Definitely the disconnected editing mode for Survey 123 works very well. That was a very important business requirement for all of our sites. We have many dynamic environments across the different sites, so that is working very well for us. Then the user actually needs to go back, connect to Wi-Fi to sync the edits.
Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned syncing up. Describe in a little more detail about where that information goes. So we talked about going out and the user getting information from the field. What happens to that once they sync? Where does that information go?
Right now, we are using ArcGIS Online. And so, as we mentioned, also workforce records are using ArcGIS Online. But our geo-event customization, that small piece of the entire application, is actually allowing us to write targeted records to our ArcGIS SDE internal geodatabase.
Okay. And from an operating system perspective, I know we were talking earlier about a variety of corporate cultures, and with that comes devices and hardware and things like that. Do these work agnostically from an operating perspective in terms of like iOS and Android?
Absolutely. We've had no issues with that. Our field technicians in general are using Android devices, as you saw with our screenshots. They're Samsung tablets, and they have about an 8-inch window. But we also have administrators that are using the iOS devices, the company cell phones, and so we've had no problems with the different devices.
Okay. Last question. So assuming a user comes to you or anybody out there and says, you know, I'm doing these inspections, and right now I'm having to carry a handheld GPS unit, I'm having to carry a camera, I'm carrying a pad of paper or a laptop and putting these into a manual process, and they came to you with a pretty simple workflow. How long would it take to get them to a point where they would be able to do this on a mobile device?
Well, I think it would just be a matter of days. If we wanted to implement a workflow such as one of these inspections that we've just looked at, we would create the Survey 123 app and the workforce integration. You know, it would be a matter of a few days and making sure that we were testing the application fully.
Okay. Well, at this point, I'd like to turn it back to Jeff and Megan, and we can go through our questions and answers. And I know we're very excited about some of the upcoming releases that we had seen and adopting some of those new functionalities into our workflows as well. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chris and Deborah at Freeport in Phoenix, and Jeff Shaner here in Redlands. My clock says 9:48 here in California time, so my name again is Jeff Wade. I'm the Mining Community Manager at Esri here in Redlands, and I'll try to host the virtual Q&A for the rest of our scheduled hour. There have been a few questions asked by attendees. This is a great time, if you have a question, to enter it into the question window on the GoToWebinar dialog box, while we perhaps answer a couple of the questions that I've queued up during the discussion. Okay, so let's get going on those questions. First, a couple of questions to Jeff on the various applications. Jeff, you presented quite a bit of information about various applications. Where can attendees review some of the capabilities that you discussed and the release dates that you mentioned?
Hey Jeff, yeah, so that's a great question. We have all of our applications documented on our website, and you can access the documentation website. We'll provide the links out afterwards with the recording of this presentation and an article about it where you'll be able to find that information. It includes not only the documentation, but also where we're headed with each of the products. So the best resource is obviously to get to the documentation website. We also feed in blog articles to the doc site so you can learn the latest information that we're providing out and go from there. Also, I think a great resource is to look at the early adopter website and GeoNet and find our beta programs, because we really want to interact and participate with you through the context of beta programs, and it helps, I think, if you have the time to be able to follow along with us and help guide and shape, in a sense, the products and the releases that we provide. So I really encourage everyone that's listening to join in on our beta programs and be a part of them.
Okay, cool. So now a couple of specific questions on products or applications that we discussed. On Network Analyst, how do you generate your own road network? And specifically, is Network Analyst required to generate that road network, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, in the discussion of Navigator, I talked about the different ways that you can customize the map. One aspect of that customization is to customize the network itself by adding your own private roads and whatnot. There's definitely a process to that. It's defined in our documentation website, again, with walkthrough tutorials. But to build the custom road network, it absolutely does require Network Analyst. It also requires that you properly attribute your roads and that you build a strong topological network where roads connect to one another. And again, that's all described through the documentation tutorials that are on the website. We've had a number of customers in the natural resources space go through that process and build custom networks that way. But yes, it absolutely requires Network Analysts to do so.
Okay, so still on Navigator, it's a fully released product now, rather than, sometimes Esri releases things through the Esri Labs kind of R&D type channel, but Navigator now is...
Navigator is fully released. It's supported in both Portal and ArcGIS Online and on the iOS and Android platforms. What it means to be released and not through Esri Labs means that if you have an issue with the product, you can call our technical support group and get direct feedback and log issues on it. Esri Labs is an approach where we put out product ideas or functional ideas that are manifesting themselves through the notion of a product, and we kind of gain feedback. We do some analytics inside of those labs products to help in part shape where we want to head with new applications. Survey 123 is a great example of that. It was a labs product for quite some time, almost I believe a full year before it graduated and became a supported product within our product suite. We just actually put out another mobile application called Trek to There through Esri Labs. The Trek to There application that we put out is interesting because it gives you kind of a compass style bearing and bearing-based navigation to a known coordinate, and you could do integration between applications to bring that thing to life. But what we wanted to do was kind of seed the concept of that off-road navigation to the community, not with the intent of Trek to There becoming a supported product, but more importantly, the feedback on the capabilities weaving into all of our mobile products. So the ability to navigate by a compass and bearing off of a road should supplement Navigator, it should supplement Collector, it should supplement Workforce as just a way to navigate on top of a map or even without a map. So we're looking at feedback coming from Trek to There to, to kind of fuel development of that capability across our mobile applications.
Okay, a couple of quick Collector questions, then I want to turn to Chris and Deborah with a couple of business questions. Collector, will Collector allow labels based on data from related tables?
Well, that's an interesting one. I've heard that question a couple of times. Today, Collector does not support labels. I talked about that briefly as something that's coming next year. The ability to label off of information that's not on the feature table is an interesting one. What we didn't talk about today is some of the new capabilities coming into ArcGIS Online. And one of them, I'll just briefly mention, will address this. So inside of the next release of ArcGIS Online, which will then be filtered into the portal, you'll have the ability to join data, kind of like you do in ArcMap today. You'd be able to take a layer and join it to a table. And then all of the attributes from that table are available as if they were a part of the feature layer. And you'll be able to label against that. So where we hear the requirement of being able to label off a related table is really where there's a relationship that's a one-to-one relationship between a feature layer and a table. You would be able to accomplish that inside of Collector once we provide labels through the context of a join. So hopefully that addresses that question.
Yeah. While we've been chatting, there's a couple of questions come in online about GPS accuracy on phones using Collector. Do you have any recommendations around using Collector and using the phone or using perhaps attached devices to improve the accuracy?
We could spend a whole hour on that one, Jeff. But yes, I mean, we have worked, it depends a bit on the platform that you're using. If you're using the iOS platform, for example, we had to work with specific vendors in order to bring that capability to life, because those vendors needed to go through Apple's certification program. All of that's listed on our documentation website. But I think it's a really interesting time as far as using high accuracy GPS receivers, because now you could take a very inexpensive smartphone or tablet device and plug and play more expensive separate GPS receivers when you need them. So you don't need to buy an all-in-one inclusive system. You could buy the one or two receivers, pair it when you need to do the high accuracy work, and not pair it when you don't need to. Okay, yes, there's a lot of information on that available on our site to talk, and happy to expand on that through another webinar if we wanted to too.
So clearly, actually, the questions are continuing in the dialog box, and we're not going to get through them all. So we'll answer some of those offline following the webinar. So let's turn to Chris and Deborah with perhaps the last one. Chris, people are asking, boy, there's a lot to these apps. If somebody hasn't done too much today, where would you recommend they get started? Maybe that's a starting point both for the technology and also business value. Where would people get started to get an intro to the technology, and perhaps where do they get the best bang for their buck?
I'll open up just quickly by saying that the gathering of the business requirements up front is in my mind, the critical element. The people that generally are doing these inspections are not GIS users or GIS sophisticated, and so we have to make sure that we're not forcing them into a technology that they're not prepared for, or that otherwise would take a lot of training.
I would just add, Chris, that actually going to the site and understanding boots on the ground as far as business requirements are concerned. And then secondly, spin up a 1-2-3 app. Just do it. Go to the tutorial, bring in a simple app, and get it in the hands of the users. I found that users give wonderful feedback when they've got something in their hands.
Okay, so I'm kind of conscious of time. We have reached our hour, so we'll call it a day for the questions there. But we will follow up with other questions that I can see are still streaming into the GoToWebinar dialog box following this webinar. So there will be a short survey that'll pop up as the webinar ends. We'd greatly appreciate your feedback because we'll use those suggestions when designing future webinars. Thank you again for joining us today for this first dedicated mining user group webinar. We hope that you found it useful and informative. We'll send you an email with a link to the recording shortly. Thank you and have a great day. All the best.